Hello, this is Michael Kajowski. As I pretend to jump into this, I never really jump into a lot of things. I'm going to call this Unequivocal Malice, Part 19. Just a moment ago, before I turned the phone camera on, there was bumper-to-bumper gridlock there on that highway. And you can't see it with this, but it's a jam down there going slow in the south direction. So again, off the top of my head, no preparation. Part 19, Unequivocal Malice, iUniverse, Michael Parker's pseudonym, 2004. And another one that came about 10, 11 years later, After Dark, put my regular name on it, and 2015. So one question people might have, other than why are you wasting your time on this? These things, I do attempt to put wisecracks in them, not all of them, but a few of them, because, people might ask, whatever happened with these. I've probably answered this before, but this is a way about, talking about the books without perfectly revealing the details of what's in between the covers. So this first book here, a suspense novel, I hesitate to call it mystery. It's a mystery for a while, I think, but I think I reveal how the homicide was committed in the first half of the story. In other words, a mystery has an investigator, and he's found a body or something, and he's trying to figure out who the guilty party is, and they don't reach the conclusion until the very end, like for Children, the Hardy Boys, or Nancy Drew. A suspense novel's a little different. It starts revealing in here likely who the guilty party is, but the police or sheriffs haven't put all the pieces together, so it holds the reader in suspense. Different from like a horror novel, which I would certainly like to try one of those, where they have supernatural creatures in them, like magic, evil or good magic witches and vampires and wizards and supernatural monsters, like in B horror movies, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare, Halloween, where you can hit them with dozens of bullets and stuff, and they keep going, and so on. So unfortunately, these two, while they probably touch on those subjects, do not have them in them. They're non-supernatural homicide plots. And most people would say, well, first of all, if they were really good, like Ernest Hemingway or F. Scott Fitzgerald, you wouldn't have to waste your time talking about them. You can just, put them out there, and a book company would hire you and you'd be paid. Well, that is really a dream. I mean, that's a 1 in a million or 1 in a billion thing. Even F. Scott Fitzgerald, before he died, he only knew of one book that he wrote that he thought sold good enough. I think that one was This Side of Paradise, his first novel, which I happen to like. And but when he died in his early 40s, he was probably 42 or 43, after having drank so much alcohol and probably damaging his liver and his heart. He only knew of he and the other writers of the day, Sherwood Anderson and Gertrude Stein and those other people, they knew that The Great Gatsby and many of his short stories were parts of them showed streaks of genius and were on a very high level. But he always lamented that his novels and scripts didn't sell well enough, even though he lived like a rich man most of his life, but probably not all of his life. The other fellow, Hemingway, claimed that he knew his writing was good, whether the public bought it or not, and it was a matter of time. He had to wait a little longer. I think he was younger than Fitzgerald. But at some point before the 1920s ended, both Hemingway and Fitzgerald were famous, at least, and I think Hemingway maybe earned more money than Fitzgerald, but I'm not really sure about that. So, and then, of course, there were a lot of other writers back in those days with John Dos Passos, and I mentioned Sherwood Anderson, and of course, all the formula mystery writers who started up, all the pre-TV and radio writers, and so on. There are just a great many writers in the United States and other countries. So, what's going on with these is nobody's ever judged these to be classics, and they're both, one is 100 pages longer than the other one. The characters have different names in them, not to be overly sarcastic. In this one, for instance, it says, in unequivocal malice, I have Stonehill woke up in darkness. Stonehill in this one is, well, I won't give away the ending still. Stonehill is one of the suspects in this one, and criminal frame of mind and so on. Down at the bottom of the page, he drifted back to sleep. People hope these books can be a little like doctors, and if you feel tired, have to take naps. If you're lame, you can't walk. Your arms and legs are flying around in outer space. Your throat is choked shut and you can't swallow. You're way overweight or way underweight. They hope that novels and books can contribute to a better overall lifestyle where you do not have so many serious, severe problems, including medical problems. But these books, I did have an agent for 3 months checking my notes. It was in 2004, and I did have to pay him a high monthly amount. And so he started showing me how to rewrite the manuscript for Unequivocal Malice. And he prefers a 2-year program. I could only afford him for 3 months due to how expensive he was. Most of the other agents were similar to that. Most of them were charging. I did have one agent, in case you happen to be a literary agent or a script or Hollywood agent watching this. One agent who has a legitimate bona fide said he sent my name around to New York employers for general employment, for writing at book companies, and for contributions at literary agencies. And he said there was no interest in employing me in New York. He was not a paid agent. The paid agent also claimed I have streaks of genius in my writing occasionally. He's the only person who's ever told me that. The only official job recommendation I've ever had regarding writing came from a college professor who wrote for the Atlantic Monthly and for Scientific American. He was not willing to recommend me for national magazine internships or daily newspapers. Way back in 1980 when I graduated from UW-Madison, he was willing to recommend me for entry-level journalism starting at weekly newspapers. So that's not a great recommendation. And then, as it mentions here, I've done foreign ESL teaching since then. As you can see, I'm a big bullshitter and I can fill up the space off the top of my head. These things could go on for a long time. It's just that TikTok is, I believe TikTok is 10-minute deadlines. YouTube will let these go on a long time, but nobody will watch them unless you buy ads for them. Or like we were saying with Hemingway and Fitzgerald, unless they're on a remarkably high level, you have to purchase your own promotion with agents and advertising and that kind of thing. I see we're approaching the 10-minute mark already. So these books, the first one, Unequivocal Malice, was considered by 9 literary agents, only one who did not charge for rewriting. And these people were difficult to reach, difficult for me to get them to level with me with their directions. And there were some obstacles, but most of them, 8 of them out of 9, needed to be paid. So if you're interested, this has a ways to go, and I need promotion to publishing companies.